Before Francis Ngannou fought Tyson Fury, the narrative, which is very understandable, was that Francis only had a knockout chance.
What do you think about Francis Ngannou?
Fury gets a knockout within 5 rounds.
You think so?
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet everything I love. I bet everything I love.
Yeah.
He has no chance.
There is no way that Ngannou wins that fight. The smaller the gloves, the more trouble he's in. This guy is a gypsy king.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He'd just do hand wraps if you let him.
Yeah.
And it's only going to make it harder for Ngannou to stay awake.
Now, after the fight, there was a serious argument to be made that Francis Ngannou won that fight. He earned everybody's respect, took the boxing world and shook it to his core the moment he knocked Tyson Fury, the heavyweight champion of the world, the so-called baddest man on the planet. He knocked him down. Since then though, everybody has switched sides. The narrative has been changed. Oh, Francis would probably knock out Deontay Wilder. Oh, Francis would probably beat any top heavyweight. The only chance he would have at losing is probably against, of course, Anthony Joshua. Because styles make fights, right? Now everybody pays that respect. It is an argument to be made that Francis went from being underrated to rated. I'm not gonna sit here and say underrated to overrated because it is ridiculous to watch the fight that he had with Tyson Fury and still try to act like the man can box. Forget the knockout skill, he looked good, and he looked like a professional. And in fact, the only thing I could criticize Francis on, and I think he did mention this himself, was that he paid too much respect to Tyson Fury, which is very understandable. He has never stepped in that ring professionally before, and the first time he ever did that was fighting the person who had the belt. So it makes sense that Francis paid respect and stuck to his game plan. And hey, it worked out. Win or lose, regardless of what the judges said, Francis was seen as the winner at that night, and everybody knows this. Now on the other hand, ever since Anthony Joshua defeated Klitschko, he was seen as the new face of the heavyweight boxing generation. Him and Tyson Fury. That was always the dream matchup for the heavyweight boxing. They represented boxing, they were the face of heavyweight boxing, the face of boxing, period. Anthony Joshua has been looking good. Having a TKO against Klitschko, having a TKO against Carlos Takam, and then beating Joseph Parker, and another TKO against Alexander Povkin. Until the day he actually fought Andy Ruiz. Then things changed for Anthony Joshua. Narrative changed for Anthony Joshua since that fight. Looking at him as someone who was pretty decent, but not able to hang with the best of the best, i.e. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and you name them. Now, Anthony Joshua had a second fight, a rematch with Andy Ruiz, and won by a unanimous decision. But in all honesty, it wasn't the most active fight. It wasn't a fantastic performance. You know, he came back, corrected his mistakes, but it wasn't anything to really write back home. All he did was right the wrong. Ever since then, Anthony Joshua's boxing career has been on an up and down scale. And that is due to one person and one person alone, Alexander Usyk. Anthony Joshua faced Alexander Usyk on September 25th, 2021. Everybody knew this was a serious matchup and might pose a problem for Anthony Joshua. It was actually a good fight, and Anthony did do everything he could, but he just had nothing for Usyk. Styles make fights. For everything Anthony landed, Usyk landed double. And then on top of that, Usyk stayed consistent and active. Now, this was the second time Anthony Joshua kind of lost his mind after taking a loss, you know, not knowing how to handle it in the ring. But hey, that's a whole topic for another time. Following year, August 20th, 2022, the rematch was set. Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk 2. The fight pretty much played out the same, but it was way closer than the previous fight. Anthony improved. It was clear he took his training camp to specifically pick the wrong things he did in the previous fight and make improvements. You know, landed way more shots, was way more active, way more confident, but he did not have anything for Alexander Usyk. It was a split decision at the end of the night. It was a very close fight, but it was clear Usyk was the better boxer. Now, since then, the narrative has always been that Anthony may not be that great of a boxer. He just fought people who were either older and out of their prime or people who weren't never great in the first place. Since his 2 losses to Usyk, he's fought Jermaine Franklin and won by unanimous decision, and then fought Robert Helenius and knocked him out. Now, the thing about those 2 fights is having a decision against Jermaine Franklin is not really something to write home about. It was okay, like it's expected, but we wanted a performance. He didn't really show the true Anthony Joshua, the knockout artist, the guy who goes in there, takes risks, and put his opponents out. Now, going to the fight with Robert Helenius, he did start to open his shell up a little bit more. But for fighting an older guy who stepped in last minute, you know, it was kind of disappointing for him to land a knockout that late. And he did get eased up a little bit. I mean, he was bleeding from his nose, but hey, it was a knockout. The narrative even increased more that, hey, AJ might not have it anymore. He really is just an okay boxer. He was never one of the greats. Now, fast forward to Anthony Joshua's most recent fight against Otto Wallen. Now, everybody were saying, based on the narrative, that hey, this matchup might actually be a problem for him. This guy doesn't get knocked out. He knows how to keep his distance, you know, things like that. But man, this was one of the best performances I've ever watched from Anthony Joshua. This was the Anthony Joshua that everybody has been asking for. And I would also like to point out that he actually changed his coach before this fight, his training camp. He made a lot of changes before this fight. Whatever he did, aside from changing his camp, he needs to keep doing that because this performance woke everybody up again. In fact, I would like to say this performance is what makes this fight with Francis Ngannou absolutely intriguing, because on the same card, Wilder fought Joseph Parker, and on paper they were like, yeah, Deontay is probably gonna knock him out, and then the next fight to make is Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Finally, Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder is the main fight that everybody has been begging for, since it was clear Tyson Fury was playing games and not really being serious with his matchups, retiring and then coming back and then taking a fight with Francis Ngannou and then signing up for a fight with Usyk several months later. So Joshua versus Wilder was the clear next fight. But nope, Joseph Parker went in there and just changed the narrative, defeated Wilder in fantastic fashion. I don't even think Wilder won any round in that fight. Once they raised Parker's hand in that fight, it was clear what the next matchup should be in Saudi Arabia, and that is Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Now, Joshua has pretty much went from being quote unquote overrated to underrated. Now people are actually giving Francis a big chance of beating Anthony Joshua, and I just think that is ridiculously funny. When I say I think this is ridiculously funny, I'm not saying it's an impossible, you know, it's not the wrong mindset to have, but it's crazy how they went from not giving Francis a chance at all and even having a boxing career to now saying he could defeat one of the biggest, baddest heavyweight boxers of our generation, of the current generation. And then they went from saying Anthony Joshua, kind of overrated. He couldn't beat the top guys. So now saying, hey, AJ is back. He might do something, but still, man, Francis is probably gonna knock him out. That's what's funny about this situation. Now, with that being said, let's get into how this fight will most likely play out. Francis Ngannou possesses a distinctive boxing style characterized by his immense power and athleticism. Ngannou's boxing style is primarily built around his devastating punching power and explosive striking ability. He incorporates a blend of techniques, including powerful hooks, straight punches, and uppercuts, often aiming to land a knockout. His style emphasizes aggression, timing, and accuracy, making him a formidable opponent in the cage. Additionally, Ngannou's background in other combat sports, such as boxing and kickboxing, contributes to his well-rounded striking abilities and unique approach to fighting. Now, in Francis Ngannou's tool bag, he has the ultimate nuclear weapon, that knockout power, the touch of death. He just needs to land one. And on top of that, he has a chin on him. So not only can he put your lights out with one touch, it's really hard to put him out. I mean, before his fight with Tyson Fury, there were a lot of jokes that, hey, Francis might throw in one MMA move, and you know, it's funny, but hey, you can't blame him. He is an MMA guy. But the person who did that was actually Tyson Fury, throwing a heavy elbow, landing on Francis Ngannou's forehead. But that man ate that like a tic tac. It was like nothing happened. Now that is a combination that should be a problem for any boxer he faces. Anthony Joshua possesses a classic boxing style characterized by his combination of size, athleticism, and technical skill. Joshua's boxing style emphasizes a strong jab, powerful straight punches, and effective use of combinations to break down his opponents. He often utilizes his reach advantage to establish distance and control the pace of the fight. Additionally, Joshua has displayed excellent footwork, allowing him to move in and out of range effectively while maintaining his balance and defense capabilities. His ability to adapt to different opponents and situations showcases his versatility and strategic acumen inside the ring. Overall, Joshua's boxing style reflects a blend of traditional fundamentals with modern-day athleticism, making him one of the top heavyweight boxers of this generation. Now, one would like to say this is a fight that is power versus skill, but that is absolutely not true. Both guys possess immense power. They both have knockout power. Now, you can definitely argue that Francis has way bigger knockout power than Anthony Joshua, but Anthony Joshua's knockout power is enough to be a problem for anybody. At the same time, you can argue that Anthony Joshua, of course, he's more experienced, so it's expected for him to have more arsenal and skills in his toolbox than Francis Ngannou, but matchup, man. Now, there are several ways this fight will play out, or might play out. The first and most likely scenario of this fight playing out is the fight going the distance. Anthony Joshua is going to prepare so well for this fight. He's not going to take this for granted. I mean, he went from calling it a gimmick fight to calling it the biggest challenge in his life, in his career, which is a fact, you know, a very scary choice he's making. But if he pulls it off, all respect to that man. He's gonna land those jabs, put on that pressure, at the same time keep his distance, keep his guard up, keep his defense, try his best not to let Francis Ngannou land anything heavy. He might try, you know, once in a while to take that risk to put Francis out, try to school him, show him who the real boxer is. So that is a potential, but most likely he's just gonna put those jabs, powerful punches straight to the face, maybe some to the body, while keeping a good defense, and then edge it out to a unanimous decision. While Francis, on the other hand, is going to keep his composure, keep it professional, not rush into the game too soon, but take his opportunities to land those heavy shots. Francis is never the guy that's not going to take no opportunity to land a heavy shot. So that's something that is always going to be a risk. The second way this might play out is Francis knocking Anthony Joshua the fuck out. Now, that scenario will be catastrophic for Anthony Joshua, like bad, but it's a big possibility. This is something that has the potential from happening either early in the fight or later in the fight or anytime during the fight. That nuclear power is always there to be used. The third way this plays out, which in my opinion is what is most likely going to happen, is that we are gonna witness one of the greatest heavyweight boxing fights in modern history in this generation. It's gonna be active. Both guys are gonna show their skills, their footwork, their speed, their transitions, their powers, and it might still reach a decision, but they will both put on a fight. Now, Anthony Joshua, I trust, is going to try to be careful with protecting himself, because Francis always has that potential to change things around. But at the same time, I trust Francis to be even more professional than his previous fight and pick his shots wisely. Now, as for the predictions on who's going to win this fight, I really did, before Joshua fought Joseph Parker, I would have easily said, man, and Francis Ngannou is gonna knock Anthony Joshua out. But if AJ fights the way he used to before Alexander Usyk and the way he fought Joseph Parker, man, that's going to be a serious problem for Francis Ngannou. When it comes to the speed, I think Anthony Joshua edges him out. When it comes to the power, Francis definitely edges Anthony Joshua out. I have way more confidence in Francis knocking AJ out than him winning by decision. And I have way more confidence in AJ winning by decision than knocking Francis out. I will never ever doubt Francis Ngannou again. I really didn't doubt him before, but man, I just didn't see how he was gonna pull it off, even though deep down I knew this man was a freak of nature. I knew he had it in him. I just knew that we were about to witness something that we've never seen before. You shouldn't look at Francis Ngannou like a regular fighter. He is very different. He's a different specimen. Now, that doesn't mean he's gonna come in here and defeat such a skilled and powerful boxer like Anthony Joshua, especially someone who has a chip on his shoulder. Anthony Joshua has a chip on his shoulder right now. Changing his narrative in his career, stamping his name as one of the greatest boxers of all time, you know, taking all these challenges and pulling through. Because if he wins this fight, he's fighting for the belt next. He's either gonna fight, no, there's no either. Alexander Usyk is going to fight Tyson Fury. So the winner of this fight is most likely going to fight for the heavyweight championship belt. If AJ wins, it's clear he either gets another shot at Usyk, which would be such a dream for him, or finally the ultimate matchup in heavyweight boxing, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Now, if Francis pulls this off, which if I'm being honest, he's most likely going to, it is just mind-blowing to think that this man, who was doubted by everyone, doubted by the UFC, every single obstacle in his way, ended up knocking down the heavyweight champ of the world and then beating Anthony Joshua, one of the best heavyweight boxers in this generation, and then going to fight for the undisputed heavyweight boxing championship of the world. Because that fight between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, is a unification fight. Whoever wins that fight gets all the belts. So this is amazing, man. This is amazing. There's a lot of stakes to this fight. It's hard for me to honestly pick who's going to win. Like I said, normally I would have said Francis could knock AJ out if he fought gun shy like he did in his previous fights, but I don't think that's how he's gonna fight. He's obviously woken up. He's obviously switched back to what he used to be before, using his full potential and going out there. But at the same time, Francis Ngannou is a freak of nature, man. He's not a regular fighter. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Who do you think is gonna win this fight? Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. Is it gonna be a KO? Is it gonna be a decision? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.